Welcome to another episode of Mental Health Mondays, where we talk to guests. I always say we, and it's like me. It's fine. Talk to guests who are experts in the mental health space, advocates for mental health, and or people who live with or experience a mental health challenge. And just as a reminder, if you are watching this on YouTube, make sure you mash down that subscribe button so that you don't miss another episode. And if you're watching it on Facebook or LinkedIn, hopefully you're already following us. But if you're not, make sure you do that. And the whole point of Mental Health Mondays is to really share resources in the mental health space that you or somebody you might know can utilize. So keep that in mind as we bring on guests now and in the future. But I am excited to introduce my guest for today, Mitch. Thank you so much for joining me.
I am so excited to be here, and I have to say that's such a great intro. Like the music, and it's like, yeah, it's like we're whoever designed that, great job on you for putting it up. Yeah, I love it. Yes,
Nice. Well, thank you. I did it on Canva. I didn't have an intro for a really long time.
right.
Probably, the first 6 months, and then I did it on Canva and added music, and it's fun. So,
Oh my
thank you.
gosh, it made me feel like when I go to a conference,
Yeah.
and before it's like, wow, okay, let's go, let's do this. Good job. Yeah, good for you.
Oh, thanks. I
Good for
appreciate
you.
that.
Yes.
Well, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of a guy roaming the earth, this spinning world that's floating in this galaxy and universe. And it's like, I love doing things like helping small business owners learn to hire and develop great people. I love inspiring people. I love empowering people. And so that's kind of what I tend to try and do, both occupationally and for fun. And so I feel like when you can tie those two together, I've had some years that didn't work out so well occupationally, and you've got to go do other things. I called the electric company once, and they were like, "Yeah, we don't take please and thank you. We kind of want money." And so, you've got to figure things out. But it's been really good. I'm an author and an inspirational speaker, and I love coming on podcasts and interviewing. I do. Gosh, I guess last year I did 65 interviews, and I had my own show as well, the Mitch Gray Show, and so a lot going on, but I think we're all just trying to do good work in the world in our own way, and that's really what matters. And so, I love going camping. I love going fly fishing. I love going hiking and mountain climbing. And my three kids are grown up; they're adults, but I still love hanging out with them. And so, yeah, it's a good life at the end of the day.
That's awesome. Yeah, I when you said the electric company, I thought of one of my friends always says you can't pay your bills with a pocket full of famous. So
That's right.
right, you're like,
That's
yeah, that
right.
doesn't really pay your bills.
Doesn't
So
work. Doesn't
yeah.
work. No.
So what really, obviously or not obviously, what brought you into this field?
Yeah, so when you in your intro, we're talking about you have mental health experts, people who are advocates, and people who experience. I check all three boxes, right? It's like I've done a lot of work in the mental health field. I'm actually a certified strengths-based mental health facilitator. What that means is I spent about 5 years. I created and owned a nonprofit, and at the place I was local to at the time, we held contracts with juvenile probation, adult detention, the public school systems, the county, the city. And so basically, we were the referral group that they sent marginalized teens to focus on mental health and personal development. And so I guess in about 5 years, we probably had around 5 to 6,000 kids come through our program, ages 12 to 18. Um, I'm a former pastor, so I've done a lot of work on spiritual development from that light, and counseled, gosh, I don't know, thousands of people just over the years. It adds up, and so from that standpoint, I have so much expertise in, especially with teenagers, marginalized teens, et cetera. And then in 2005, I was diagnosed with depression. Quite frankly, I've probably dealt with it my entire life. I think there's also some other things I deal with that necessarily haven't been diagnosed, but um, and in 2005 had a suicide attempt as well. And so living with and experiencing it leads usually to advocacy, right? When we can really begin to find ourselves and we can really begin to dig deeper into the awareness of mental health. The result of that normally is a healthier life, but it's also normally a life of advocacy to be there for others, to spread the message in our own way as best we can. I've seen everything from college students create, hoodies that they sell that have mental health awareness, mantras on it. I've seen businesses be started. I started a nonprofit. I mean, there's just so many kind of under the subculture movements that are taking place that the vast majority of humanity doesn't know about. But it's not really about one person making a larger difference. It's really about many of us making the difference we can that really multiplies. Back in my church days, they used to call that discipleship, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. It's basically about if we can all make the impact we can make, we are advocates, and it begins to really provide and create the ecosystem for health that we're hopefully striving for. And so really it's, in a way, I started off in this journey of inspiring and helping people because I just always wanted to be a pastor. But then in a way, I kind of got thrown into it because of my DNA. And I think both of those are okay. It's just kind of learning how to navigate and apply those to the best of my ability.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. And I'm so glad that you are alive and here and able to tell your story through that journey. And I know there's a lot of people that don't talk about it as often. I'm one of those people that loves talking about it, which is interesting, but it's needed. And we can all experience depression at any point in time.
Yes.
And I think that's important to know. And that even through the depression that you had a suicide attempt, right?
Yeah.
And luckily you are here and able to share your journey with so many others. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. I told my youngest daughter one time, she was kind of going through probably some light seasonal depression. And she was asking me some questions, and I said, I am incredibly grateful for my mental health, for the depression, for whatever else I face, for the dark days. And she was like, wait, what? She's like, what do you, and I said, if I really stop to think about it, without that depression, without those seasons that are often years, by the way, of just that darkness, that cloudiness, without that, I would not know myself the way that I know myself. It just raises your self-awareness and invites you in to have a better relationship with self. And, oftentimes we have this mistake that we make as humans that we really gauge if something is beneficial or not by the result. In other words, we only see that one little piece of evidence. And it's like, yeah, but what about the process? And if we can ever come to a place that we can survive moments, if we can come to a place that we can receive those moments for what they are and really know, okay, I'm going to get through this, I'm going to be okay, then it does raise that level of self-awareness to a level of gratitude. And what's really, really magical, so for anyone listening to this, facing those moments, I'm going to tell you what's really magical is when you can somehow experience the gratitude for that moment. And again, we so often make the mistake of judging something by the moment rather than just receiving. Thich Nhat Hanh says, invite fear in for a cup of tea. And it's like, yes, if I can invite that moment, no matter how difficult it is, for a cup of gratitude and learn to say thank you, what really happens is you take back the power. When you offer that heart of gratitude and you offer that heart of I'm here, that heart of surrender, you're really taking back the power in that moment. And so it became a great conversation with my youngest daughter and I, who's 21 now. And she was like, wow, Dad, I never really thought about that. And I said, well, I didn't either at 21 or at 31 or at 41, to be quite honest. And so it's really just this idea of, in that moment that we don't even understand, how can we offer a heart of gratitude? And that kind of opens those doors to movement forward, to healing, and to receiving every moment as a moment that we don't have to relinquish the power. It doesn't have to consume us. but it does take that heart of gratitude.
Yeah. I think there's so many things that popped into my head. I love I love the fact, I mean, one of the things that I talk about all the time is that we really have to move through whatever challenge we're going through versus trying to go around it or shove it down. And I think that's really important to know. And then that the hope piece, I mean, that's what you're saying really is like there is hope even after these periods. And of course, they can last for years. They can last for an actual season, right? It all just depends on your life, what you have around you, and potentially the support. There's like so many things that go into it, of course. But I love also that you said when you can pull in that piece of gratitude for whatever it is. And this, interestingly enough, because I've been doing a 30 days of gratitude challenge, I just one day woke up and I was like, I'm going to do this. And I've done them before in the past, but normally it's writing it out. And this time I'm doing it all video style, which is a challenge for me. So, but it's amazing. I mean, I'm only on day 12 today, and the amount of things that are being drawn in at this point, I mean, I can't even get them out fast enough to let people know what's happening. And that's just incredible because once you start looking at that, the grateful space, it really truly does transform. And I know that it's really, really hard when you're in those deep, dark places to even think about any light at all whatsoever. But if you can, and if you have somebody that may be around you to be able to support you, to be able to get out of that space, take the opportunity. And I think that's important to hear you say it, and also know that there is hope after. And you work with teens, which we know that for them, things are really, really real in those moments. They don't see through anything, right? They just see that moment, and it is strong and powerful. One, because their brain's not fully developed, but also it's really, really real for them. So we have to remember that too, is how can we also be that guide for that age range? And so those just lots of things that bubbled into my head as you were talking. So,
you know, what's interesting is, first of all, it's amazing that you're documenting your gratitude via video. I've never done that. So thank you for doing that. About 3 years ago, I switched to my daily journaling. So I've been daily journaling for the most part for, probably 15 years, for a very long time, maybe longer. But about 3 to 4 years ago, I switched it to a daily gratitude, because what I found is when I was just simply journaling, I would look back at my journals and it was basically complaining 101 is really what it came down to. And I think, I think a lot of us do that when we journal, and not that you can't get something out of it, but we know we attract what we are putting out. And so if the energy we're putting out is just constant complaining, we're going to continue getting in response from the universe, just the response of constant complaining. And so I really became, I mentioned Thich Nhat Hanh a second ago, the Zen Buddhist monk, that if someone out there hasn't heard of Thich Nhat Hanh, please go read any of his books. I read one of his books quite a few years ago, and he talked about focusing solely on gratitude. And that was really raised my curiosity. And so I switched my journaling to daily gratitude. Now I'm telling you, not only the manifestation piece and the attraction piece, but just the simple existence of how we begin to reshape our perspective on the world, and especially on those hard days when we've created the discipline to first focus on gratitude on those really, really difficult days. And I'm talking the days that you're battling the darkness like never before. You all of a sudden find yourself going, okay, I've gotten through this before, I can get through again. But you know what I'm really grateful for? This hamburger tastes incredible right now. And so oftentimes it's just all of a sudden shifting your mind to notice even the smallest of pieces of gratitude. And what that does is that does begin to lift your spirits, and it does begin to bear forth hope, which then does begin to see you going, okay, I only see the clouds right now, but I know beyond the clouds is my ray of sunshine. And sometimes that comes in the form of another voice encouraging us, or a book, or a movie, or a song. But what I have found is most often what gratitude does is it really teaches you how to take the opportunity to find the hope within. And so when the hope outside of yourself comes in, it's now just simply a blessing and no longer a life raft. Because there are those moments in life that you need the hope from outside of yourself that's going to save you. But it's amazing when you can get to the point that the hope outside of yourself just simply becomes a blessing. Mm-hmm. And it just pours on to more of that gratitude. But I firmly believe that it takes the discipline of what we're talking about. And that is making sure you take time each day, whether you do it through video or journal, or you share it with a group or whatever. What are you grateful for today? And if you're just starting out, just begin with one thing: a warm shower, a hot breakfast, a cup of coffee, talking with a friend, the grass is turning green, whatever it is, I don't care. Just begin lifting your eyes to the beauty that is around you. And it begins shifting your spirit to the hope that I actually believe always lies within. It's just that we often don't unearth it the way we wish we would.
Yeah, I love that also. Is, I mean, we really are, it's the hope within, right? You don't, I know that in the past, there have been moments that I have even said, if I didn't have bad luck, I wouldn't have luck at all, right? We hear that all the time.
Yeah.
And I know several people who I've talked to about just even doing gratitude challenges or whatever, or looking at the small things like a roof over your head or the toothbrush that you brush your teeth with, right? It can be really, really super simple. And some people that are really stuck in those dark places, it's hard for them to acknowledge those, which both of you and I completely understand. But I think what you said is really important, is those little shifts. It doesn't have to be massive. It can be small. And I actually designed it's a safety and self-care plan for our curriculum that we have called Breaking the Cycle of Trauma. And ultimately it's a triangle, and it's set up in a triangle form, but it goes in threes because a triangle is the strongest structure in the world. And I have one of the things that you write out is what you're grateful for. So 3 things that you're grateful for. And that's kind of the process of writing it down. Like you were saying, is write it down, because you can always go back to that. It can be a place that you have to be able to go look. Because sometimes when we are in those deep, dark places, we don't remember any of that.
No,
So,
no.
yeah.
No, there are moments that, I can look back at many of my journals, and there are moments that my gratitude that day was, I'm here. Like, I got out of bed, I put some clothes on, and I'm here. And in the beginning, that sounded really dumb. I'm like, I should be far more grateful that, for more things. And it's like, yeah, but that is a really powerful thing. I got out of bed. I got you. And, that was one thing I really challenged myself with when I was going through the darkest of times, was I always got out of bed because I knew, both emotionally, mentally, and symbolically, that if I didn't get out of bed, I was in real trouble. And that was just something that I equipped myself with and made a commitment to myself that I will get out of bed. Now, may or may not leave the house that day, but I'm going to get out of bed. I'm going to get dressed, and I'm going to act like I'm doing something. And I believe, and that's one of the first encouragements I give anyone that's going through any type of mental, emotional health, is get out of bed. Because that one act alone is a hopeful act. And I think we undervalue that far too often. Even on a regular day, it's like, some days it's like, I don't want to get out of bed. It's like, nope, got to get out of bed.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true. I actually just thought of, do the support group on this app, and a lot of the people that have come in, it's for grief and loss, and they talk about or they have talked about in the past a checklist. Like it's get out of bed, check.
Yep.
Take a shower, check. It's those small things, and it could be get out of bed for 20 minutes, check, right?
Yep.
Go back to bed, check.
Yep,
It can be those small things. So yeah, that's important. Of even I had another guest that told me when you're working from home, the act of getting up from your desk and going to get a glass of water and then coming back and sitting down, that helps retrain your brain too.
Yes.
So
yes.
Lots of interesting. I love the brain is so interesting and fascinating to me now. So
and that's what's so crazy is, the first, let's just call it 10 to 15 years of life. We have so little control over what is poured into us, and then about 15, 16, we get real rebellious, which I think is really cool, by the way, because I just think that's us as humans is going, hold on a second. What you're telling me isn't making sense. And so as teenagers, it becomes rebellion, but I think it's magic. And so what's crazy though is neurologically, we are out of control of what we're given in the most formative moments of life. And so there is no wonder why people stick to these habits that they were gifted and these belief systems, it's set of cultures, et cetera, even if those belief systems, habits, cultures, et cetera, are causing them damage. It's much easier for us to stay in the harm than it is to reinvent ourselves. And that goes from addiction counseling to neurological pathways to everything, because we've just been gifted these things that wired a comfortability to us. But here's the hope. The hope is we can redo all of that. I mean, they are still, I read an article the other day about all of the magical things that we can rewire within our brain and neurological pathways. And it's like, hold on a second. Like we've been told this myth that we don't have control, yet all of the control of the universe is really already within us. And so it's like, yeah, that is you stop and think about that for a second. It's like, hold on, we could do some really, really awesome stuff. And so just kind of to give people a glimmer of hope there, it's like, yeah. And for me, it was that way, especially religiously. Grew up in a very conservative religious culture that caused me incredible damage that I didn't realize was causing me damage until probably my 30s. But then all of a sudden it's like, okay, if I'm going to move away from that, I'm moving away from generations of pride and family and belief and all of these so-called eternal ramifications that are plugged into that. You talk about being depressed. It's like, holy smokes, how am I going to get through that? And so all these kind of little tricks that I learned, the Rock, Dwayne Johnson, the famous actor, he has a saying that I actually really love. And he says, I have 4 anchors that are non-negotiable every day. It's like physical activity, meditation, et cetera. And so I've kind of adopted that over the years. I have these anchors that I have to do every day. They are non-negotiable. The day has to have gone totally awry for me to not do them. Journaling in my gratitude book is one of them. Going to the gym or physical activity is another one. Meditation is another one. And so I would really encourage people to even start there. Think about what's one anchor that you could do every day that's a non-negotiable that you're going to stick to and create that habit of discipline for that anchor. And those really become shifting points in the moments of darkness, because what happens when we face the darkness? Everything goes chaotic. And so that's what starts pushing us further down the rabbit hole. But if we can have that one anchor that brings us some sanity for a moment, that really becomes a shifting point in saying, no, I'm taking control of my life, not my mental health, not my physical health. No, I'm taking control. And we're going to get through this, whatever that looks like. But having that anchor really, really helps.
That's so powerful too. Once I left my corporate job and started doing my nonprofit full time, I had a business coach who we talked about non-negotiables, which was like nothing I had ever. I was like, wait, what are those? I'm like, you want me to do what?
Right.
And as a business owner, you're like, how do I create boundaries? How do I create non-negotiables? How do I not work all the time?
Yeah.
And that was one of the biggest things that she taught me was you have to have your boundaries. You have to have your non-negotiables. And for me, getting on like Calendarly and like adding in these technology type things was huge for me because then I could block off entire days, right? I sway from them occasionally,
Same.
but yeah,
Same.
yeah. But like you said, it brings you back to that thing.
Mhm.
And with the 30 days of gratitude that I've been doing, I've been dancing, like having little dance parties. And so I'm going to I'm going to add into my daily routine that I have to get up and do a dance party somewhere
Awesome.
because I danced almost my whole entire life. And then once my sister passed, I just like kind of let it go for a long time. And so now I'm like getting back to it and I'm like, this is awesome. Like, why haven't I been doing this? So yeah, I love that. The non-negotiables and those anchors that are going to bring you back are so important. And I learned a lot about anchors with neurolinguistic programming, and it's very powerful. So I'm curious if somebody wants to work with you and or find more information about you, how can they do that?
So my website's the best, mitchgraymedia.com. And I will tell people, yeah, it's on the screen now. Awesome. I love it. I will tell people, when you go to my website, you're going to see most of my business consulting stuff, but I still do a lot of personal development, mental health, spiritual coaching as well. And so just because you may not see it on the website, it doesn't mean you can't reach out. And in fact, right now my slate is clean of personal development clients. And so I have some availability actually. I did that on purpose, by the way, going into this year. But so when you go to my site, but if you are, you just mentioned it, if you are a business owner, and you are struggling with things like balancing your health and work, we can work on that. If you're struggling with things like, the stresses of business, we can obviously work on that because there are some things you can do really quickly as a business owner, whether you're a solopreneur or you're running a team, that you can implement really, really quickly that will help you keep your sanity, reduce stress, and quite frankly, if you're still wanting to grow your business, then revenue will allow you to do that. But for me, the biggest play is there are some things you can do quickly, both personally and professionally, that will begin evening out that stress, because I think that's the first play, especially when you're dealing with mental health. And what's crazy to me is, you alluded to it earlier that we often don't talk about this stuff, and we don't. And I'm grateful for shows like yours. I'm getting to the point that I'm doing more shows like this, mentioning it more on my show, writing more content based on this. But what's really interesting to me is in the leadership sphere, this is still a very taboo topic, incredibly taboo. What that tells me is, gosh, I told you 2005 was when I really began, kind of walking my path here. So that's 20 years ago. Let's just call it 20 years because it is, time flies. What's crazy to me is a part of the reason that I went through what I went through, especially I was working in ministry full time then. Well, if you think this subject is taboo in the corporate world, try putting it in the religious world. Like there's so much work to be done. Heaven forbid, as a pastor, you go through depression. I mean, and I grew up in a religious culture that didn't believe in mental health, period. Like it was, you could pray it away, sing it away, whatever. No one wanted to deal with it. And so what I'm seeing is that what we saw 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago is still a problem. Why am I saying that on your show? I'm saying that because if there is anyone out there that is in a leadership position that is struggling with some form of mental health, it might even just be stress and anxiety for right now. I mean, we're still all transitioning kind of back to what we call normal life per se. If you're dealing with any of that, please reach out, whether I can help you or we connect you with someone else who can. That does not bother me one bit. I would just love to have a conversation to help you figure out how you can put this out into your stratosphere and start putting together a plan of health, not only for yourself, potentially for your family, but also for those that you're leading. We want to be our best self. And when we're suffocating these issues internally, I can promise you we are not our best self. And people know it, right? They know it if they're struggling with it. And so I know we're coming to the close of the show, but I just want to put that out there that I'm here for you. And if I can work with you professionally, great. If it just needs to be a 30-minute conversation where I can connect you with someone else, great. Doesn't matter. Let's just have a conversation and see where it goes.
Yeah. No, I think all that is really important to understand too. And I know I was born and raised in a Mormon family, so definitely that taboo, don't
Yep.
talk about it. And, which is a whole nother, a whole
We
nother
could do
topic.
another
Right.
episode,
Totally. Yeah, totally. Interestingly enough, I am actually going to train a mental health first aid class at a church this Sunday. It'll be the
Awesome.
first church that I've
Awesome.
ever done it at. So I am excited for this opportunity because it's definitely one of those demographics that we need to talk more about it. So, Mitch, I am so glad that you were able to come on the show. This was such an amazing conversation, and maybe you do come back sometime and we have another conversation.
Love it. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
Absolutely. Any last thoughts, tips, tricks, things you want to share?
Laugh as often as you can. Do what you love doing, and just try your best at whatever it looks like for today. Whether it's eating a cupcake or buying yourself something or giving something, do something today that makes you feel good. If you can stack those moments and do more of that, life becomes really, really fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much. I
Thank you.
appreciate you. All right, y'all. That was another amazing episode of Mental Health Mondays, where we talk to professionals in the mental health space, advocates of mental health, and or people who live with or experience a mental health challenge. And I mean, there were so many amazing nuggets in just this episode. And again, I love how all of my guests just keep toppling over each other. If you haven't watched any of the other episodes, make sure you go back and watch that. But keep in mind, BCC Evolution is a 501c3 nonprofit. And in order for us to bring all this information and programming to you and all of our mental health classes, we need your support. And the best way, easiest way to do it is the Climb for Your Mind. Text 44321, Climb for Mind. And again, that is going towards the climb that myself and Philip are doing in August. 30 miles up a mountain, y'all. Like, I say this every single time. I need to start getting in shape, but I have been dancing a little bit like we were talking. So keep rolling with that. Add it into my schedule as one of those non-negotiables because I got to be ready for the climb in Utah in August. And this is the best way that you can support us. As a reminder, if you donate $100 or more, you can put the name of somebody on the front of our t-shirts that maybe you lost by suicide, mental health challenge, or substance use, or just somebody that you want to showcase and tell their story that they're a warrior. And then as a business, if you do $1,000 or more, you can put your logo on the backs of our shirts. And I promise you, we're going to be streaming this event. And if you want to share the story of your loved one or your company, if you want us to give you a bigger shout out, tell us a story and we will shout that out too. But thank you so much to all of you that have already donated. We're at about $4,500. Our goal is $60,000. So please support BCC Evolution. And again, it all goes to mental health and suicide prevention education. And don't forget to catch us next week at 11 a.m. on Mondays. Bye, y'all.